Okay, great. So thanks for joining us for today's webinar. So what we will be going over today is all things TinyCat. I will take you through the front end of TinyCat first, what the patron will see in the catalog. We'll look at a home page, some search pages, and then some detail or book pages as well. And we'll try some self-checkout just to see how that works. And then I'll take you through the admin portal or the back end of TinyCat, where you as the library admin will have access to all of your settings pages and things like that. So as I mentioned, I do have my colleague Loran with us today. So she will be monitoring the chat feature. If you have questions that you would like to ask in chat, go ahead and she can answer those questions while I continue presenting just to keep everything flowing. And if Loran sees a question that is worth stopping and vocalizing, then she'll go ahead and pause me while we can discuss that. Okay, so we might as well go ahead and get started. So for those who are not familiar with LibraryThing and how it relates to TinyCat, LibraryThing is the cataloging site, and it's the end where you will always catalog and edit all of your books, your movies, your music, and things like that. Sort of like your ILS. And TinyCat is what transforms your LibraryThing library into an OPAC, or the online public access catalog. And that's where your visitors and your patrons can search for items that they want to check out. And it's also where you can manage all of your patron data and your circulation data. So let's go ahead and dive in. Right now you should be able to see the homepage for Folio's Seattle Atheneum, one of the libraries that uses TinyCat. And as you can see, just overall, is sort of a simple minimalist look to the catalog. TinyCat was designed to be that way, just very simple, user-friendly, void of any unnecessary distractions or clutter. The catalog is also mobile-friendly, so you'll see as I resize my screen here, the catalog will automatically resize to whatever device you're using, so there's no need to purchase a separate mobile app to use TinyCat. All you have to do is just use your mobile browser. So at the top of the homepage, you've got a place for your company logo. Beneath that, you can have the title for your library. Folio obviously doesn't need one since they have it right in their logo. And then you can have some welcome text, followed by a nice prominent search bar. And beneath the search bar, you'll notice we've got this animated cover display, which will actually pause if I hover my mouse over it. So if I'm interested in looking at a book, it'll actually show me the title and I can click on that to go to the detail page. You can customize your animated cover display to show either most recently added items or random items from your library. And then above and below the animated cover display, you have options to add either simple HTML links, or you can use free HTML and add a little bit more formatting to your text. So where you might want to add your web page, or you can even embed your Twitter feed, things like that. So let's go ahead and try a basic search. I'm going to go ahead and actually dive into my own catalog since I sort of know where everything is. Let's do a search for young adult. And so again, looking at the search page, you can see how clean and simple it is. At the top of the page, you've got the number of search results. If you have multiple pages of search results, you will be able to scroll through them at the top. You can also sort your searches using the drop-down menu to your right. So searches on TinyCat will default by relevancy, but you can also sort your searches by acquisition, title, publication date, author, and popularity, which is calculated by LibraryThing. So let's go ahead and do that just to give you an example. Harry Potter is at the top. That makes sense. At the right, you will see we have search facets or filters, which can also be customized. You can show your format, collections, tags that you've added to your items, genre, language, and there's also a search facet for original language. I've actually excluded that from my catalog. But users can click these facets or filters just to sort of hone their searches much quicker, much easier to find what they're looking for. So I just clicked my classics tag. So now I can find young adult books that are also classics. Now looking at the left, the content that you can include on your search pages for each item. I have everything available here. You can add tags, collection, series information, barcode and call number, item status, and you can also include your patron action buttons, the little self-checkout and place hold buttons here. And then also underneath the book covers, you'll see that you can email items to yourself or others, and you can also add items to a starred list. So we'll go ahead and add this item to my starred list. Starred lists are really great for things like reading lists or research projects. And you'll see as I add these books to my starred list, the number is tallying up at the top right here. All right, so Julie is asking, can you include subject and a description of the book? Yep, you can. We've got those available on detail pages, which I'll go into in a few minutes. So if I click up to the right here on my star, I can view my starred list, and I can actually email that entire list to myself, to my research project. Whoops, if I can type properly, whoever I need to send that to. Click enter. It confirms that that list has been shared, and now I'm set to go. Starred lists on TinyCat are all session-based, so with each new browser session, this list will clear for you. Okay. Just making sure that we're all set. Did that answer your question, Julie, about the subject and description data? I'm not sure if Loran messaged you separately or... Okay, great. So we also have advanced search. So if you go to the right of any search box and click on the little caret here, you'll have access to an advanced search page. And our advanced search uses Boolean logic or search syntax. You can search for any field you need, and you can also limit your search by collection, by language, and also by media type. So that's just a quick example of your advanced search page. Okay, let's go back to, I want to try a search for science. Let's get into a detail page. So I'm going to sort by popularity so we can get a good book. Harry Potter, there we go, that'll do. Let's go ahead and click through there. This is a detail page on TinyCat. The thing that I love about detail pages is that there is so much that you can add or remove to or from these pages, so you can really customize the look and feel of your catalog here. Some of the highlighted information that you can include are the tags that you've added to your book. This is also where you could add the subjects that you were just asking about, Julie. These are all listed on LibraryThing. It's where the data has pulled from the library source that you have added your books from. You can also include your rating, awards that the book is listed on from LibraryThing, published media reviews, librarian vetted user reviews from LibraryThing, and also similar in this library or book recommendations. LibraryThing because it has so many members and so much data, we have some of the best recommendations around. So that's a nice highlight. And also at the bottom here, for librarians, you can include this fun little mark view, where if I click the link at the bottom, I will be given a pop-up with my record in mark format. So those are just a few of the things that you can include. Also underneath the book cover, you'll see that you can also include social media sharing buttons as well. Now, if I'm a patron and you have enabled self-checkout on your catalog, I can actually go ahead and check this item out to myself by clicking the checkout button. So let's try that. All right, this "Hey, what's the password" pop-up, this means that I am in simple circulation mode in TinyCat. TinyCat has 2 circulation modes. Simple circulation, where every patron shares the same password. So this is really useful for high trust environments, things like classroom libraries or small community groups, things like that. And full circulation mode, where every patron will have their own login. So let's go ahead and sign in here. And now I am brought to a pop-up with all of the patrons in the system. And all I have to do is click the patron who I need to check this book out to. You can see most of my patrons are Harry Potter characters. Let's check this out to Severus Snape. Click checkout. Okay. And now that status will automatically refresh to show that it is currently checked out and that it cannot be checked out by anyone else. So that is how self-checkout works. Also, I'm just going to scroll through my search page results here. There is an Ask About This feature. This is especially useful if you don't have self-checkout enabled. You can still allow your patrons to use the Ask About This button, where if they use that, you can have an optional pop-up message, and they can enter their name, email, and leave a comment. So you can also request that they leave certain information in the comment for you. But let's just leave, I want to check this out. I submit the request. The request gets submitted to the library admin, and now they can reach back out to me with my request. So that is how that feature works. So they Ask About This, this is just going to send, it's not going to make the item on hold. So if I were to place a hold on an item, confirm request, then the item would remain unavailable. Anyone can request, inquire about an item using the Ask About This feature. Regardless of if it's available or not. It's actually, if I refresh that, then that will show back up, so that even when the item is not available, I can still ask about an item. Does that answer your question? And it's also not it's not an official lending status in part of the lending feature for TinyCat. You can also, you don't have to show this as a button. You can also just include it as a link in your More section down at the bottom of the page. You can just have it show up as text if you don't want it anywhere near your checkout buttons. So that is, we've covered the home page, search pages, and detail pages, as well as some of our patron actions. That's the basic front end of TinyCat. Were there any questions before I dive into the admin portal? Okay. If you think of any, while I continue, just please feel free to stop me. So down at the bottom right of your catalog, you should see a lock icon, and if you're already logged into your admin portal, it'll show up as a little house. So that, clicking on that, is going to be where I reach my admin portal. So I'm just going to go ahead and log in. And it's the same username and password as your LibraryThing account. And this is your admin portal. This has everything that you need as an admin to do what you need to do for TinyCat. Excuse me. You've got a link back to your catalog page. You've got all of your settings pages, your check-in and out page where you can check in and out multiple items, all of your lending transactions in one place, your patrons. This is where you're adding, editing, importing, deleting all of your patrons. Setting up your TinyCat subscription on your billing pages. Your LibraryThing links. So I'm going to go ahead and open this in another tab just to show you what that will look like. This has everything that's on LibraryThing that you could or might need for TinyCat. So you'll definitely need access to your Add Books page. That's where you're adding your books. Importing options. You can import MARC records or other imports. We've got a link to our LibraryThing app if you've got an iOS device. And any other things that you might need that lives on LibraryThing, you'll find on this page. We've also got our Help Wiki. So the TinyCat Help Wiki, I will also open this in another tab and give you the link here if you want it. And I'll include this in my follow-up email as well, so don't worry about saving it. This is pretty much has help pages on almost everything that you'll need. So if you have questions and you're getting started, I highly recommend referring to this help guide to find any answers. So all the settings pages that I'll be going over in just a few minutes, these go into much greater detail. So it'll explain much more detail than what I'll be explaining. The check-in and out pages, pretty much everything. So if you can't find what you're looking for through the wiki, you can always email me. But this is a great resource. And then also to the right here, we've got a little shortcut to all of your active lending statuses and active patrons or patrons with active lending items. You can just quickly look and see how many records you have in your TinyCat catalog, how many items are checked out, things like that. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into our settings pages. So there are a lot of settings on TinyCat, so I won't go into great detail, but I'll just give you a sort of a one-sentence summary of each settings page so that you can have an idea of what every page does for you. And if you have specific questions, please feel free to stop me. So first is your basic settings page. This is where you can view your account type, whether you're all volunteer or paid staff. You can change your library name. And you can also set which collections you want to include from LibraryThing. Your content settings. This is where you can decide what type of book covers you want displayed, what genres and collection labels you might want to show within your catalog. And also, if you know any JavaScript, we have a custom JavaScript feature. This is just another way to sort of add another more flavor to your catalog if you want it. I actually have an example library over here, the Center for Ancient Mediterranean and Near Eastern Studies. They have a reservation and appointment form over here to the left. This lives on every catalog page within their catalog, and they built this using the custom JavaScript feature, just to give you an example of what that might look like. All right, your home page. This is for customizing your home page where you can upload your company logo. I don't have a company logo, so I've got a photo of my 2 cats. You can also decide whether to hide or show your library name, and also where you're formatting those links above and below the animated cover display that I mentioned. So for my own catalog, I like using the free HTML feature. Julie says they are cute. Yeah, that's they're Maine Coon cats, Lucy and Stella. Lucy's the purebred. She's spoiled. So for the links above and below your cover display, you can just use simple links if you want. So you can just include the title for your link with the address below. You can add multiple links. You can reorder them if you need that, delete them, whatever you need. So that is a much easier to use feature if you're not comfortable with free HTML. And you can also customize the random or recent items for your cover display, like I mentioned before. Search page settings. This is for what fields you want to actually allow to be searchable and what patrons are able to see for the item data, along with what search facets you want to be able to use as well. Your detail page settings is where you are customizing your Ask About This feature. Again, as I mentioned, you can just have it show up as a link in your More section or as the actual button that we saw in the status section on my detail page. You can also include links to LibraryThing or Amazon, and that's also where you can customize your Mark View feature. Just a side note for the Ask About This feature, I actually have a request to developers to allow adding and editing of custom fields for this pop-up so that you won't have to just require name, email, and comment. You will be able to customize that more sometime in the near future, and we will announce that in Twitter and also the TinyCat group when that happens. Your detail page sections. This is where you can completely organize all of the data fields that are showing on your detail page. So again, this is where you can customize the look and feel of your catalog. We've got 2 visual spacers that you can include on the page, so you can have up to 3 sections. It's all drag and drop, so all you're doing is just dragging and dropping each data field where you want it. If you want to remove a data field from your page, just click the X to the right, and it will drop it down into your inactive fields area. To add a field to your detail page, just click the up arrow to the right of that. It'll add the field to the bottom of your detail page, and then you can just drag and drop the field where you want it to live. And just be sure if you're making a bunch of changes, just make sure you save them before you leave. I'd hate for you to lose all of the changes. All right, your patron settings. This is for choosing how you want your patrons to be entered and displayed for the patron names. And it's also where you can decide which patron fields to actually use. You can add custom patron fields here. So you can see which ones are custom in my system by the little edit and delete buttons I see to the right. So I've added occupation and patron category as 2 custom patron fields. And then you can also set how you want your patron barcode IDs generated, either automatically or manually. The patron accounts page, this is where you are disabling or enabling any patron accounts, the simple circulation mode and the full circulation mode that I explained. So if I go to full circulation mode and save that, just a hint for what that will look like on the front side of my catalog. If I go to my home page, I can tell that I'm in full circulation mode because of the little person icon to the left of my library name in the right corner. So if I'm a patron and I want to log into my account, I'm just clicking that, logging in with my patron barcode or ID. And then I can reach my borrowing pages where I can see my current and historical lending information. I can also view and edit my personal information. And as an admin, you can customize what you want each patron to be able to edit. So obviously, they can't edit their name or their barcode, but they can edit everything else. So that's just an example of what it would look like for a patron while in full circulation mode. All right, and then you can also require, in full circulation mode, you can also require patrons to need a password with their barcode and ID, along with setting the patron password complexity. And I'll show you how to generate passwords once we're on the patrons page. Okay. Circulation settings. So pretty self-explanatory. This is for anything circulation related. So this is where you can enable or disable your replace, hold, or checkout buttons, or the patron actions. You can also customize your admin actions, such as allowing auto creation of new patron when you add a new lending status. This is also where you're selecting your call number system. I'm going to actually swap mine back to Dewey Decimal, which is actually what I use. You can allow renewals. You can set your default circulation period. So again, anything circulation related you can select here. And then finally, contact information. This is primarily for LibraryThing's use. So, if your account is disabled and we're not sure if you intended it to be that way, we just like to have a name and an email that we can reach out to for account information, basically. Okay, I'm going to pause for a moment. I know Moran was addressing a question about account history. I'll just pause and make sure that we're all right before I continue. Or if there's any further questions on the settings pages before we go into the check-in and out page, just let us know. Okay, great. All right, so let's go into the check-in and out page. So again, this is where, as an admin, you can circulate multiple items. So for checking out an item, you can scan ISBN barcodes or your barcode label if you have a barcode system set up. You can also search for these items as well. You can search for title, author, barcode number, ISBN, whatever. So let's go ahead and add barcode 37 and barcode 100. And I'm putting in 100 because I know I will get more than one item back from my search because I have 100 in some of my titles. If that happens, if more than one item comes back, it'll show you the list, and all you have to do is just click the item that you intended to add, and it'll add it to your item list. Once you have your item list ready, you can select which status you intend to apply to all of those items. You can include custom lending statuses as well. Then you're entering the patron. You can add their patron barcode if you like, or you can add their name. If you're entering their name, if you add 3 characters of a patron name, we have a patron name autocomplete feature. It'll show you a list of all matching patrons with those 3 characters so that you can quickly click who you intend to check those items out to. The default lending status will always go to today. You can pick a separate date if you need to do that. My default circulation period is filling in for me here, 14 days. Then I'm just clicking save. The page will refresh and show me that those items have been saved. And if I use my shortcut here to look at all of my transactions, I should see the 2 most recent items. Neville Longbottom has checked out, and there they are. And that's how the check-in and out works. This is a good transition to the transactions page. So as you can see, I've got my little shortcuts here in the left menu. If I'm on my check-in and out transactions or patrons, I can also just go all the way back to my admin portal and click through to those pages there. So looking at your transactions, your first landing page will always sort to your active transactions first. If you want to look at all of your transactions, just click the all in the left-hand menu, and I will be able to see items that have been returned or otherwise closed. I can also cluster my transactions by title. So if I have multiple lending transactions for one item, they will cluster for me so I can see all the lending history by item. And then also we have the option that I showed from our admin portal earlier, just by status. If I just want to look at overdue items, I can do that. If I just want to look at on hold items, I can also do that. You know, if I've got custom statuses with active items, they will all show there. So that is how transactions works. Any questions on the check-in and outer transactions before we go into the patrons page? Yeah, that's a great question. We don't have reports yet. That would be why you don't see that. It is on our list of features to add in the near future, but we do not have them yet because, you know, when we first came out, TinyCat is really just built for tiny libraries. So, but what we are doing hopefully very, very soon will be allowing you to export all of your transactions so that, you know, at least in the meantime, before we get reporting built, you can at least export all of your transactions to a spreadsheet, whether you want to do that, you know, weekly or monthly or whatever, quarterly, just so that you can sort of see and maybe make your own data reports from those. But yeah, we don't have a reporting feature yet, I'm afraid. Okay. Thank you, Loren. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the patrons page. All right, so as I mentioned, this is where you're adding, editing, deleting, or importing, you know, all of your patrons. If I want to edit a patron, I just click the pencil icon to the right of their name, and I will get a pop-up with all of their information that I can either add, edit, or remove. Scrolling down to the bottom of the pop-up, I can delete that patron. I can also merge that patron. So say if you have a volunteer that accidentally created a duplicate patron, you can merge one patron into another. So you can save patron one's lending data, merge that into patron two, and drop all of the contact information and name and things like that. So you can merge their lending data. Looking further to the right here, you should see a little hashtag or pound symbol. This is if you are in full circulation mode. This will show up. And this is where if you've required your patrons to use a password to log in, not just use their barcode ID, then you would generate those here. And so if I just click to generate a password for Fleur Delacour, click the generate new password, I get their password, and at this point I would want to hand that password to the patron, whether it's having them write it down, reading it to them over the phone, just making sure that they have it in hand before you click OK, because once you click OK, that password is going to disappear for security purposes. You know, this being said, this means that if you require patrons to have a password to log in, you will have to generate a password manually for every patron in your system. I see this as sort of a pain for people who want to do this and have a lot of patrons. So I have a request to developers to at least allow patrons to generate their own passwords. And that way they're only reaching out to you if they get locked out and they need you to reset it for them. So we will announce, you know, if and when that is built. So just to let you know there. Okay, down at the bottom of your patrons page, you can add an individual patron. You can also click the More button, and you've got other options. You have an option to import your patrons, and I can actually quickly show you how that works. It's very quick. It's basically a 3-step process. All you're doing is browsing and selecting your import file. And right now we just accept CSV imports. So I'm going to select and upload my import file. Then I am brought to my mapping page. So I'm basically just mapping up the fields that were in my import file with the fields that are in my system for my patron fields. So these are all drag and drop. I'm just making sure that everything matches up and it looks good. I know I don't have country, so I'm going to delete that. Drop the notes down here. Swap these two. And once I see that everything is matched up and looks good, click Submit. And now those patrons have been imported. And I had actually already imported a whole list of them, so they're all right. They're in my system. But that's how you would import them. Down at the bottom also, you can, if you're testing, say if you're in your free trial and you want to delete all of your patrons in the system or delete all of your transactions before you go live, you can go ahead and do that. And don't worry, if you accidentally click the button, you will get a prompt to confirm your request. And you will actually get a prompt twice, so you will have to click OK twice before it will actually delete all of them in your system. So those are just a couple of options there. Now looking at the actual data for your patrons, you'll show current lending transactions for each patron. If you want to just look at your active patrons, you can select that from your left-hand menu. And you can also look at a custom way to view your patrons using the Fields option. So if you click Fields, then you can change whatever fields you want shown for your patrons. So you can look at your custom patron fields, like my occupation and patron category, email, things like that. You can view from this page so that you can edit whatever information, just sort of have it all on one page, easily to view and edit. And that is how patrons works. Any questions on that? So I think that's the basic back end of TinyCat. We've pretty much got everything here. If you have questions about anything that I've gone over, let me know. Again, I will give a follow-up email with all important links that you might need. I also list them at the top. Whoops. Sorry, my WebEx. There we go. I also list them at the top of our TinyCat discussion group here. So just all of the important links there that you can have on hand as you need them. If you have any questions that you can't find in the help wiki, you can always email me at tinycat@librarything.com. And you can also email me personally at Kristi@librarything.com. Yes, thank you guys. Have a great day. All right, see you.